Today's look is for those of you who want to look hauntingly beautiful. So it's not about creating a dark and gothic look or a soft and pretty look, but about finding that middle ground. I hope that in the end, the look's gonna have this feeling of being very magnetic, but also in a way withdrawn, romantic, but also slightly eerie. I want to play with some contour shades on the complexion, but then like soft pinks on the cheeks and lips. And then the eyes I want to shape out with some contour-like shades. I think it's all going to come together pretty interestingly. I have my new Till Blush of Night dressing gown on, which I think completely suits the vibe. And I may play with some jewelry, hair, maybe clothing later if I can find something that's gonna fit this. So that's the plan for today, and let's get into it. Starting with foundation, I'm using the Urban Decay Face Bond. This one's the shade 5. I've actually really been loving this foundation lately. I'm gonna start right here on the outside of the face, or the edges of the face, and as I always do with my sort of softly gothic looks, we're gonna leave this part of the eye alone. Leave your under eyes. This is very crucial. For one, it creates that kind of haunted look, but also it's a great way to keep some dimension around the eye without having to even use eyeshadow if you don't want to like just work with that natural shading. Also, if you don't like covering up your under eyes and you find like the product builds up a bunch and it's just like, you know, creasing because our eyes crease, this can just be a great way to embrace those under eyes. Can't tell if this shade is a touch too dark. Doesn't matter. I find by the end, even if you have a shade that's just a little off, too light, too dark, when you put on all your other products, it kind of evens out. That being said, about the eyes, I still personally like to put some concealer or foundation on the actual eyelid. Opting for a contour shade for sure today instead of a bronzer. Now, this is my Anastasia Beverly Hills shade in Fawn. Totally on its last legs, so I'm gonna see what I can get from it. And I'm gonna place that just below the cheekbone. And this is a favorite shade of mine for contour. I just haven't been using it as much recently because it's almost out, but it's great for anybody with a neutral to warm complexion or potentially a fair olive. It's just like not too cool, so it doesn't stand out strangely against the skin. So as much as I do want to emphasize contour, I don't necessarily want to look like I have, I don't know, too much gray on the skin. You know, I'm working with a warmer or darker foundation today for my skin tone, so just something a little more neutral's gonna suit this. Whenever I do the jaw, I do particular focus right here rather than, you know, just a line. Then I make sure to get it right up at the ear there. So you can see the difference. I just did my brows off camera. Someone recently asked why I do it off camera, and it's basically because it doesn't change much. I like to show it if I'm trying something new, but it's basically the same thing every time. So now I'm gonna go in with blush. I have this Wonderskin blush, and it's their Flush Stick. Flush spelled with a PH because it's one of those pH adjusting formulas. Now it looks like purpley gray, but when you apply it to the cheeks, it turns like a pink color. So I'm thinking that something a little vibrant that stands out against kind of this contour is gonna create an interesting effect. So I'm gonna start by placing that in this area, just a little bit at a time. Like, see how quickly the color changes? It's really, really interesting. And I wonder if it would look any different. I wonder if you can apply it to the brush first. Let's see. You definitely can. It's just like less impact right away. So I'm gonna go in right there. I'm just building it up slowly because I don't want it to look too vibrant, but I definitely want a flush happening here. And for this look, I'm moving more in this type of shape, just on the cheekbone. I think that's a really pretty pink. Sometimes these pH shades can look like overly vibrant, but I find this one's looking quite natural. I'm really happy with this color, and just like this placement here kind of emphasizes the cheekbones a little more. And I'm just gonna take a powder and really powder down softly most of the face. And then kind of what's left on the brush is what I take to powder down the rest of the complexion. Because whenever you use powder, like, it does kind of take away. So say you went in with way too much blush, you can use a translucent powder to then get rid of the blush. So I don't want to take away too much pigment. I just want to very softly set everything. For the lips, I'm using another Wonder Skin product, and this is their lip stain in the Lipotle shade. From what I understand, it's sold out, and so this is a re-release. Love it because I love Chipotle. It's one of the only restaurants I can eat without worrying about allergies, funnily enough. So this comes with a lip tint shade and then their activator spray, which I find is the best way to use their lip stain formula. There's also like a little cloth in here, which would help remove the lip stain too. This one's a really fun one. You may have seen me recently use a Wonder Skin lip tint and it was that classic blue mask, but this one's green. Literally looks like guacamole. And I feel like it's such a cool lip shade on its own, the green. And you can feather out the top a little bit, but it's nice like at the center of the lip to get the deepest pigment. See what I mean? It's like such a cool color on its own. All right, I'm just gonna let that sit for about a minute. Then I'm gonna use the activator spray and just place this cloth just below here because I already have foundation on. Then anything left from the mask, just use the cloth to get it off. So this shade is perfect for this type of look because it's like a little bit muted. I find it looks like a muted rose, whereas the other lip stain I used recently, Whimsical was the shade, was a little bit more vivid and deep, but this kind of plays with that pink on the cheeks and the contour shade as well. So what I'm also going to do to like contribute to that feeling of harmony with the contour and the pink is use a cool tone liner to just kind of blur out the edges and add a little bit more mutedness to this. So this is Endless Cacao from Makeup Forever. And just feather that into the lip shade. I want the lines to be a little blurry, so a little bit of a blurred lip look. I love how this lip shade came out. As I said, you really want to look for that just like soft mutedness in the pink. Like nothing too vibrant and then nothing too dark either, right? I love it. Okay, eyes. This is where things are really gonna start to come together because we have this little bit of discoloration still under the eyes, but I wanna lean into that a little more with how I shape out the eyes. So I have the Glaminatrix Cosmetics Nearly Natural palette. The very first thing I'm gonna do is just lay down a shade on the lid that's rather brightening or neutral. So I'm gonna go in with this one, Pure. You guys know I do this often. I just prefer to start with the lightest shade a lot of the time, especially to create a base for the rest of the shadows to stick to. So especially focusing on the inner corner, but then diffusing it out across the lid. And then just like that slightly brighter shade tends to add that extra oomph of contrast against the shading that you do on the rest of your eye. Now I'm gonna go into something a little bit deeper, this one here, the shade called Serene. It's kind of like a soft taupe and very much a good shade to create shadows with. So I'm gonna start by bringing out the crease, especially focusing the pigment here, just getting in there with this brush. And then I'm gonna use what's left to bring some more depth further in and further out. This is kind of like, not quite a dense brush, but dense enough that you can get a lot of pigment, but then blend it out. It's kind of perfect for a crease placement. It's from Sigma E54. So just take my time blending this and then also bringing it out. I'm gonna take this same shade and put it under the eye. Kind of same idea, a lot of focus here. And then what's left on the brush, bring it in and bring that shading in like right on top of your discoloration if you have it. I find that haunted look really comes forward when you add shading here. And you want to look for colors that, you know, either soft, dusty roses, taupes, or almost like the colors of a bruise. That is kind of important for this look. Just flicking it up too a little bit at the end. And then there's something about the way like an eyeshadow will blend with that slight like blue or purple under the eye that it just kind of feels like the under eye is an extension of the eyeshadow blending, you know? Then I'm gonna add some more depth to the outer corner with this shade here, Untouched, which has some of that, you know, soft, dusty pink feel that the lip has. I'm just using this Glaminatrix E02 brush, so it's a little bit fluffy and it's not too big. And I'm going to place that in the outer corner here. And I'll take kind of what's left on the brush and like dust it into this part of the eyeshadow look. Now I'm gonna create a little bit of a wing using a angled brush and this shade here, Disrobe, and just stamp that into the outer corner. I'm going to bring it softly in a little further, stamp that wing. And then I'm gonna take what's left on the brush here and wedge some of this shadow right into the actual lash line, just about halfway across the lower lash line. I want to try something one of my subscribers actually thought might look kind of interesting. So I want to put a little bit of a dark shade in the waterline, like right in the outer corner here, just to add to that depth at the outer part of the eye. But then in the waterline, like in this area, I want to add a brighter shade because I don't really like to get the whole waterline all dark. So let's see if this kind of creates something interesting. About halfway, maybe even a little less than halfway. And then switch to the lighter shade. I don't know, kind of cool. All right, I'm going to do lashes off camera and then think about if there's any little finishing touches, like potentially a little bit of shimmer or sparkle, we'll see, to add, but I want to see how lashes gonna bring this together. And yeah, I'm really loving the tone so far, and I think lashes are just gonna really add that extra. All right, here's where we're at after mascara, and I really feel like the look is coming together. It definitely has that slightly haunted quality, but we've got little bits of softness and romance, you know? I do think there's a couple little finishing touches I'd like to do for my own personal taste, but I definitely think you could stop it here, especially if you prefer a matte look. But I'm thinking a little bit of highlighter will just kind of bring a little more levity to this. So I'm gonna go in with the Rare Beauty. Oh, I was gonna grab a gold one, but I accidentally grabbed the silver one. That's okay too, let's just use it. And I'm gonna bring that to the cheekbone, to the nose, lip. And then you know what? I think I want to add some of it to the eye. Touch of it on the brow bone here. Right here even. And then I think under the eye too. In terms of hairstyle for this, I was kind of playing with things off camera. Nothing was really working, but I had a thought that even when you wear your hair down, which I do often because hairstyling just tries my patience, you can kind of place your hair differently. And I was thinking that like if you really bring it over to one side, kind of add like volume and almost like kind of gives this more loose, sultry, slightly wild vibe when you really bring it over to one side. Soon I'll be able to play with side parts when my bangs are a little longer. See how awkward they are? Ugh. Just zhuzh it up. I feel like that's kind of cute. I don't know. And earrings, again, really torn. But I think these hoops that I love, they have this like raw, hammered quality to them. It's just gonna look good with this, especially with the hair on one shoulder. You kind of have this then detail here to like balance the look. I like that. It's kind of adds that little boho element to this hauntingly beautiful look, which makes it feel a little bit more me, which I like. So you can always play with details to make the look feel more like your style and how you pair it with other items like jewelry. And I added this actually ring that was my grandmother's that I love the color, the soft taupe just feels like it goes with this. And guys, I don't want to take off this robe. I think it suits the look. I tried out a couple outfits off camera, but it all felt too modern. Something about this flowy nightgown just suits the vibe so much. So I'm going to leave it here. And yeah, that's it for this look. I hope you like this exploration. I really feel like it's all in the little details and leaving that under eye and blending into it with colors that are sort of like how your skin would bruise no matter what your complexion is. And then just soft pinks, contours, that kind of thing. And yeah, I love this. It feels very wearable, but evocative. And that's always what I'm going for with my looks. So anyway, that's it for today. Toasty, let's take it away. As always, we want to thank everybody who watches the video until the end. You don't know how much it means and helps support the channel. And if you want to check out some bonus content, my Patreon's linked down below, and links to all the products I use are always linked down below as well. So until next time, may you all find yourselves a little bit of makeup magic, and we will see you in the next video. Bye, witches.